Long, long time ago, before time was counted, before kingdoms rose and fell, before gold became more valuable than honor, there existed a land bathed in endless sunlight, a land called Arumael. Its rivers shimmered like molten bronze, its fields breathed life into the soil, and its people lived beneath a sky that never forgot them. They believed the sun was not just light, but a living witness, a watcher, a judge. So they held a ceremony every 3 months to praise and worship the sun. They brought their finest harvest, golden yams, fat grains of millet, calabashes filled with palm wine. They danced until their feet bled joy into the earth. They sang until their voices became one with the wind, and the sun smiled upon them. At the heart of this land, just like every other kingdom, there ruled a king. His name was Oremma. In his youth, Oremma was loved. He walked among farmers, his royal cloth dusty from the fields. He listened to the old women who knew the land's secrets, the ones who could read storms in the flight of birds and predict harvests by the smell of morning dew. He carried wounded soldiers with his own hands, washing their wounds himself, whispering prayers over their fevered brows. His voice was calm, his judgment fair, his heart human. The people loved him. They even said the sun favored him, that when he stood in the village square, the light seemed to rest upon his shoulders like a father's hand. And for many years it was true. Under his rule, Arumael prospered. Children laughed freely in the streets. Trade flourished with neighboring lands. The drums of celebration echoed through the valleys every full moon. They lived war-free, in absolute abundance. They loved each other fiercely because they believed that unity was where their strength lay, and it had been so for years. But power is patient. It does not strike at once. It waits, it whispers, it plants seeds in the cracks of a man's soul, and slowly, quietly, it began to change Oremma.
It started small. An advisor suggested he sit on a higher throne, so the people can see you better, my king. Another convinced him to accept tribute before the sun's offering, just this once, for the kingdom's treasury. Then came the new guards, men who had never farmed, never wept, never bled for anything but coin. Praise became expectation, respect became fear, obedience became law. Oremma no longer walked among the people. He watched from above. From golden halls and stone balconies, he looked down on the very people he once served. He no longer asked, he commanded. The fields that once fed families now fed only the palace. The people worked day and night, their backs bent, their hands cracked and bleeding. They brought yams, millet, honey, and livestock to the king, the same king who once told them, "Bring nothing to me, offer it all to the sun." But now, power had wormed its way into his head, and worse, into his heart. Anyone who resisted was dragged to the square, their heads rolled in the dust as examples. The ceremony stopped. No more offerings to the sun, no more songs, no more dancing, only silence. And the people wept bitterly. They prayed to the sun, lifting their faces to the sky, asking, "Do you not see us? Do you not hear? Have you forgotten your children?" For years there was no answer, no sign, only the endless burning silence of the sky. Then came the day Oremma crossed the final line. An old woman, Mama Sina, came to the palace gates. She had been one of his teachers when he was a boy. She had taught him the old songs, the prayers, the stories of the sun. She carried a single yam. Not for the king, for the sun. "Please," she begged the guards, "let me pass to the altar. Just this once, let me offer this to Ibadum." The guards laughed. They dragged her before the king. Oremma sat on his high throne,
draped in gold, his eyes cold. "You dare defy my law?" he asked. Mamasina looked up at him, tears streaming down her weathered face. "I taught you better than this, Orenma," she whispered. "I taught you that we are nothing without the sun, that a king is only a servant with a crown." Silence. The court held its breath. Orenma stood slowly. He descended the steps, and for a moment, just a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something human. But then pride rose like bile in his throat. "Take her," he said coldly. "Let her join the others." They beheaded her in the square. Her blood soaked into the same dust where children once played, and the sun darkened. That night, Oremma dreamed. He stood in darkness. Then light appeared, blinding, endless, all-consuming. A voice spoke from within it, not loud, but absolute. "Remember who you are." Oremma woke in sweat, his chest heaving. He dismissed it. A dream meant nothing. The next night, it came again. The same light, stronger, closer. It filled his lungs, pressed against his chest. The voice returned, sadder now. "Your hands grow heavy with pride. You have forgotten the soil that fed you. You have forgotten the people who loved you." He woke shaking, gasping for air, but still he ignored it. The third night, the dream consumed him. The sky burned, the earth cracked open, revealing rivers of fire beneath. The people screamed his name, not in praise, but in agony, and the voice thundered like the breaking of the world. "Change your path, or be changed by it." Oremma awoke screaming, his servants rushing to his side. But instead of fear, he felt rage. "What god dares to threaten me?" he shouted into the empty night. "I am Oremma. I am king." And from that moment on, his heart closed completely. The days that followed were the darkest Arumayel had ever known. Taxes rose until families had nothing left. Punishments grew brutal, hands taken for theft, tongues removed for complaints. Dissenters vanished in the night. The people whispered, but never aloud. Hope faded like smoke, and the sun watched. Then came the day when the air stood still. No wind, no birds, no sound. Even the insects stopped their hum. The world held its breath. At midday, when the sun stood highest in the sky, the heavens tore open. Light poured down like liquid fire. The ground trembled. The palace gates shattered outward, stone and iron exploding like dust. And from the sky descended a being unlike any mortal had ever seen. He was tall, towering, his presence filling the entire courtyard. His skin glowed like living gold, radiant and terrible. His eyes burned with the heat of creation itself, twin suns in a divine face. Flames danced around his feet, yet nothing burned. His hair moved like solar flares. His voice was the sound of thunder rolling across endless plains. The people collapsed to their knees without knowing why. They did not need to be told. They did not need to ask. The being standing before them was a god. This was Ibadum, the sun god, the keeper of balance, the one who watches kings.
And he spoke, saying,
"I am Ibadum, the light before the world learned to breathe, before crowns were forged, before kings were named, before fear walked among men. I existed. I am the fire that woke the sky. I am the warmth that gave life its first breath."
Ibadum moved forward, his feet not touching the ground. The earth itself seemed to shrink away, too afraid to bear his weight. Each movement sent ripples through reality. Oren-Ma, his voice thundered, calm yet absolute. The king stood frozen on his balcony, his guards trembling behind him. You were chosen to protect, Ibadum continued. You were trusted to guide. You were given a people who loved you. His eyes narrowed and the air grew hotter. But you chose fear over compassion, greed over generosity, pride over purpose. The king's legs trembled, yet pride, stubborn, foolish pride, still clung to him. I am king, Oren-Ma shouted, his voice cracking. This land is mine. I built it. I rule it. The gods' eyes burned brighter, and the sky itself seemed to darken around them. No, Ibadum said softly. It was only ever borrowed.
In panic, in desperation, in the madness of a man who has forgotten everything he once was, Oren-Ma raised his hand. Soldiers, kill him! Hundreds charged forward. Steel flashed in the sunlight. Boots thundered against stone. Spears held. Cries filled the air. Ibadum lifted a single finger. The world paused. Time itself seemed to stop breathing. Then, whoosh! The soldiers turned to dust. Not burned, not broken. Simply gone. Carried away by a wind that had not existed moments before, scattered like ash across the kingdom. Silence followed. A silence so deep it felt heavy, oppressive, sacred. Oren-Ma fell to his knees, his crown clattering to the ground. Tears streamed down his face. I beg you, he cried, his voice a broken whisper. Spare me. I will change. I swear it. I will be the king I once was. Ibadum descended until he stood before the weeping king. His voice softened, but only slightly.
Look upon me, king of dust. Your throne was built on borrowed time. Your strength was never yours, and your reign ends now. I came to you in dreams. I whispered through your nights. I warned you again and again. And the Poe. But you chose pride. You chose fear. You chose to rule through suffering. And now you stand before truth itself.
The sun flared brighter than ever before. Light wrapped around the king like chains. His body stiffened. His breath froze in his lungs. His skin hardened, turning from flesh to metal. And slowly, painfully, Oren-Ma became gold. A statue frozen in eternal fear. His face locked in regret, mouth open in a silent scream. His hands reached forward as if grasping for redemption that would never come. Ibadum stood, and with a wave of his hand, the statue lifted into the air and moved to the center of the kingdom square, placed where all could see, not as honor, but as warning. The sky cleared. The heat softened to a gentle warmth. The people rose slowly to their feet, trembling, weeping. They stared at the golden statue, unable to look away. Ibadum turned to them, his terrible gaze softening. Let this be remembered, he said, his voice now like a father speaking to frightened children. Power without compassion destroys itself. A throne is not a right, it is a responsibility. Rule with humility, or be ruled by consequence. He looked at each face, and for a moment they saw not a god of wrath, but a protector who had waited too long to act. "You are free," he said. "Build again, choose wisely, and never forget." And with that, he ascended. The sky closed. The wind returned, carrying the scent of rain. The sun shone gently once more. The people collapsed into each other's arms, weeping and laughing. They screamed his name, "Ibadum, Ibadum, Ibadum," not in fear, but in gratitude. Years passed. The people rebuilt. They chose a council of elders to lead, never allowing one person to hold all power again. The ceremonies returned, greater than before. The songs were sung with renewed passion. The fields bloomed, children laughed, and every child was taught the same lesson, that the sun sees all, that pride blinds even the mighty, and that no throne stands above justice. To this day, the statue still stands, silent, golden, watching, its eyes forever turned toward the palace it once ruled, a reminder that even kings must bow to the light. And when the sun shines hotter and brighter than usual, the elders gather the children close and whisper, "He is here, he is watching, and he remembers." The end.
If you watched to this point, that means you would like to see more amazing ancient legendary stories like this one. And to make that happen, subscribe, like, and turn on notification so you'll be first to know when something amazing like this drops on this channel. Thank you for watching.